Hello YouTube, how's everyone doing? It's Professional here. So today I got a crazy current events video for you guys. If you guys aren't familiar with these are videos where I, react to really ridiculous things and give my opinions on them. And, this is something that's a bit personal to me because I have seen my mom and dad basically go through this crap when I was a kid. It was just a horrible situation, and I have also a lore video on GTA 4 that I will be releasing next week. So I have a lot of cool videos coming out, and also another Ace Attorney video coming out later tonight. But anyways, about this situation, this is a video that's actually going viral. And so this reminds me of something that I went through when I was a kid, but also this is actually very close to where I grew up. So this is actually in Flushing, in Queens. Been there several times. This is actually the same neighborhood that's Packy's neighborhood in GTA 4 is actually based on, which is Fresh Meadows. But anyways, the situation here is that this scumbag had basically taken over this woman's house. So the parents had left this woman, their daughter, their home, and this scumbag had taken it over. And he apparently was there for more than 30 days. Now apparently he has squatter's rights. She tried to get him removed. She got some of the people removed from the house, but then the guy came back, and she ended up getting arrested. So for trying to change the locks in her own home. She got arrested for trying to change the locks in her own home. So this video, like I said, is blowing up. So many people are reacting to it. I've seen a video before, but we're going to react to it again. I'm going to tell you guys what I think of it. And also on top of that, I'm also going to tell you guys the story, what my parents basically went through when I was a kid. But anyways, let's watch this here.
You don't know the law. Yeah, there's laws. You shouldn't be trying to steal my house. Yes, you are. You don't.
How about that? A squatter standoff. A property owner confronts a group of people she says moved into her $1 million home in Queens, and our cameras were rolling as dozens of officers showed up.
Several people were taken away in handcuffs, and one of those arrested may surprise you.
Investigative reporter Dan Krauth joins us now with more on what happened. Tell us, Dan.
Well, this is a very big growing problem. I received dozens of tips from viewers about this in just the past week. I went to do what I thought was going to be a routine interview. Instead, we capture what police and property owners are dealing with on a daily basis.
I have video of you, Brian.
Who are these people?
Figure out the situation.
Yeah, but they're in my house, man.
Relax.
No.
To understand how this day ended,
We need the police right away.
with multiple 911 calls and arrests, we have to start at the beginning.
Adele, the hardest question is how do you say your name?
We met Adele Andaloro outside the home her parents left her in Flushing, Queens. She's in the process of selling it.
No, he locked it.
But she's been locked out. She claims squatters moved in on February 6th and refused to leave.
What's it like being here knowing you can't go inside of your own home?
It's enraging. It really is.
In New York, squatters have rights after 30 days.
This is true. It's a really stupid law. I don't know the full text of the law, but basically when somebody squats in a home, which basically, for people that don't know what squatting is basically when somebody illegally enters your home and they just decide to live there, decide to sit there. And so if somebody enters in a home that is not inhabited, and they sit there for more than 30 days, apparently they have some kind of rights, and now the person who owns the property has to take them to court. It's one of the stupidest things I ever heard, because think about it this way, is if somebody comes onto your property, that's trespassing. If they're on your property without your permission, that is trespassing. But apparently, if they trespass for 30 days straight, then it's not a crime, apparently, at that point anymore. And then, apparently, now they have something called squatter's rights, which I don't know what the hell this is about exactly. This is some of the stupidest crap. This exact similar situation happened to my parents. They had a scumbag couple that actually lived in a apartment unit that they owned, and they would not leave. I'll talk about that a little bit later.
By the time that someone does their investigation and they do their work and their job, we'll be well over the 30 days, and this man will have stolen my home. And now she's back.
Just after wrapping up our interview,
Like,
a woman
who the
showed
hell are
up.
these people?
What are you doing in the house? Are you renting this house?
So they came into her house. She didn't live there for a month. They came into her house. They changed the locks.
Why are you here?
She unlocked the front door, saw our cameras, and took off.
It's open. Let's go in the house. It's open.
Adele and her daughter, with the property deed in hand, went inside.
This is my furniture. These are my curtains.
She didn't just find her belongings inside.
There's a man sleeping right there. Get out of my house.
She found two men.
How long have you lived here?
I moved in about 2 days ago.
They've called the police on me, and I've called the locksmiths. I didn't come in illegally. The door was open.
Police started interviewing neighbors and looking for documents.
Do you have something that shows that you've been here for more than 30 days?
They took the man who told me he had been renting for 2 days out in handcuffs
They got one out.
and escorted the other guy off the property.
Now you're afraid to come out.
I'm not
Honestly, I don't understand why you would escort them off the property. They should be arrested. They're trespassing. They're illegally living in your house.
coming out. This house is empty. This is my home. My locksmith is on the corner waiting to change my locks. And it's not fair. It's not fair that I, as the homeowner, should be having to go through this.
How you doing?
Minutes later, a locksmith showed up, but police gave her a warning before they left.
I may end up in handcuffs today if this man shows up here and says that I have illegally evicted him. I said to them, let him take me to court the way I've been told to take him to court. But today, I'm not leaving my house.
Less than 10 minutes after police left and the locks were changed.
Okay, this is, you can definitely make the point, the argument that this is breaking and entering, pretty much what this guy is doing at this point. Look at this, look, he's literally forcing his way through the door. This is on camera. Literally, they captured this on camera, and this scumbag, this piece of crap does not get arrested.
The man who claims to be the one actually leasing the house shows up.
Call the police again.
With the other guy, police took off the property.
Do you see this? This guy just literally broke down my door, broke through myself and my daughter to get in here. This guy just forced himself into my house. No, he did not. Yes, he did. No, he didn't. And so did you. You broke through the front door.
Officer.
The man called the police on her.
So why is it that I have to leave and he doesn't have to leave?
Because technically he can't be kicked out. We need to go to court.
They consider this a landlord-tenant issue, and by law, it has to be handled through the housing court, not with police.
This is not a landlord-tenant issue. I own a rental property. When you're a landlord, you sign a lease with your tenants. Typically, it is for a year. You know, it's a contract between you and the tenants. The tenants agree to live in your unit, your apartment, your house for a year. They agree to pay their. I mean, they don't have to live there, but they agree that they're going to pay the rent for a whole year. They're going to pay the monthly rent. And you as a landlord have responsibilities as well. You know, you're responsible for utilities if you include that. You're responsible for maintenance. Every landlord is responsible for maintenance. If something breaks around the house and it's not the fault of the tenant, you are responsible for fixing that. I always take really good care of my tenants. You know, I don't pull any crap like that. Very fair to my tenants. I don't raise the rent of my tenants also when I renew leases with them. But this what I'll tell you guys about this is, like, a lot of people have this misconception where they think that all landlords are like, you know, these greedy scumbags. That's not true. I know there's, you know, plenty of, you know, scummy landlords, but there's plenty of scummy tenants. But in this case, this guy isn't even a tenant. This guy is a criminal because he has no lease. He has no right to be there. And, you know, the cops here, I think the cops, you know, a lot of people are in the comments on the video are saying these cops are idiots. But here's the thing is, the cops have common sense. The cops know this guy's probably on the property illegally, but they can't do anything because of the stupid, dumb laws in New York. That's just how it is. So, you know, I'm not trying to trash talk, you know, my hometown where I grew up, but, you know, this is a massive problem that's happening in New York. This is ridiculous. People, you know, going into houses, squatting there. You can't get them out. Then they tell you, oh, you know, you got to take it to court. You know, it is a landlord-tenant dispute. This is not a landlord-tenant dispute. This guy is trespassing. He is committing a crime. He was breaking and entering. He forced his way into the home. You could even argue that you could even make the argument that when she was holding the door back and he pushed the door in her face, you could make the argument that that was assault as well. So this guy has committed, you know, numerous crimes on camera. Cops are not doing anything. I think the cops are personally scared of the law as well. So the cops, what they're doing, kind of really stupid, idiotic. This guy should definitely be in jail. But, you know, the main culprit here, the main person that we're blaming for the cops not doing anything is the laws. The laws are the ones, the stupid politicians who had basically pushed these laws, passed these laws. This is basically what we get, you know, scumbags like this guy taking over this poor woman's house. But in an ideal situation, if somebody like this guy is saying, oh, I'm a tenant, you know, I live here, I'm leasing out the property. In an ideal situation, all the police need to do is the police just need to say, you have a lease? Show us a lease, show us any proof that you have of, you know, your right to live here. And if they don't show any kind of proof, get them the hell out of the house. You know, throw them the hell out of the house. That's how it should be. But now the police are saying, you know, this has to be taken to court. That's apparently what. And the courts in New York City, I'll tell you this about this, the courts in New York City are so incompetent. They're so dumb. They take months and months to resolve something like this. And this guy could be living in this house still for a whole year. That's what I'll say about this. Possibly even longer than that. So he'll be living in the house, and she tries to get him out of the house. She's gonna get arrested. That's how stupid this is. Do we not have property rights? In America, do we not have the right to own our property? This is our property. This is our land. People should not be trespassing and taking over your land.
If you own this house, you would not want her inside.
I don't own this.
Exactly,
Yes.
she does.
Yes, but then once again, you should know how the law works.
I do know how it works.
There's rules to the as you got to go to court and send me to civil court.
He says he signed
Oh, you gotta go to court and take me to civil court. This scumbag, this piece of crap, like I say, he knows the law. He knows the system well. He's exploiting the system. He knows what he's doing.
Send me to civil court.
He says he signed a lease in October, but wouldn't tell us with who.
Yeah, that's exactly it. They always say, I signed a lease. And a lot of times, these guys have fake leases, by the way. The leases aren't real. Anybody can just go on Microsoft Word and just type up a fake a lease.
Proof longer than that.
Show us the proof.
But who are you for me to show? I showed it to cops.
Dan with Channel 7 News. If you don't want to show it, you don't want to show it.
Proof. Come here, brother. I like that.
I would like to see it.
He didn't show me a lease.
This is a bill.
A bill for work he says he had done to the house.
So yeah, like I said, they have fake documentation. What kind of work has he done
He
in the
didn't
house?
show
What?
police a lease either.
The police department doesn't have the lease?
No.
He's got no documentation.
Just bills.
So Adele, you're getting arrested right now?
I'm being arrested
For what?
for being in my own home.
And where's your lease?
She's fighting the house. It's not her house anymore.
My deed
That's
is
what was
current
told
and
to me.
legal.
Arrested for unlawful eviction. She changed.
Honestly, this just makes me so angry right now. This makes me so pissed. I'm sorry if I'm, raising my voice, guys, but this just makes me so pissed. Again, this is my hometown. I grew up in New York City, and the neighborhood that I actually grew up in was very close to Flushing. It was even within walking distance. That's how close I grew up to Flushing. I'm very familiar with this area, and, this is, something that has been going on for decades. This is not something that's new. This has been going on for a long
the
time.
locks on a man who claims he lives there.
So how does this all end then? When do you leave?
The way it ends is either she pays me my money that I put into the house, pay me the money, and I'll leave, or send me to court, and we deal with the judge in court.
Pay me the money that she owes me. He's claiming that she contracted him for some kind of service and he fixed something around the house. The thing about that is, even if that is the case, let's just say that this guy's telling the truth. Let's just say theoretically this guy's telling the truth. Even if that is the case and he remodeled something around the house and she didn't pay him, that still does not give him a right to trespass on the property and live on the property. How does that make any sense? If he apparently fixed something around the house, that he gets to live on the property. And I'll tell you guys something. When I was studying law in school, I remember that I had my teacher told us about this one case. I don't remember where this happened. If anybody knows the state where this happened, let me know. But basically, there's this one case where this guy stole a car. And what happened was, after the guy stole a car, what he did was he installed new seats in the car, new radio, new steering wheel. He painted the car differently. He added a ton of new modifications to the car. The police found the car. They gave the owner back the car. The guy got arrested. Now, after the criminal got arrested, you know what the criminal actually told the judge? The criminal told the judge that the victim has to reimburse him because he put money into the car. So apparently the victim now has to pay for the radio, all the seats and everything, even though the car was stolen from the victim in the first place. And the judge actually had common sense, looked at the case and said, "You're an idiot." And, sent him to jail, threw him in jail, and the person was able to keep the car with all the modifications. But like this here is this scumbag, this piece of crap, like I said, even if you fix something around the house, even if you did something, you don't have the right to live there. It's just so stupid. And I'll tell you this, is I don't know, honestly, how this piece of crap, how he can honestly sleep at night. He does this,
right now?
He takes over this poor woman's house, and he could just leave right there. It'll be done. That'll be the end of it. But no, instead, he decides to call the police, and he gets her arrested for changing the locks. Because according to the police, because he's a possible tenant now he has squatting rights. Because she's changing the locks, she is violating his rights now. She's apparently trying to kick him out of the house. You have the right to change the locks on your own house.
And where's your lease?
She's fighting the house. It's not her house anymore.
My deed
Not her house.
is current and legal.
Arrested for unlawful eviction. She changed the locks on a man who claims he lives there.
Honestly,
So how
you know
does
what I'll
this all
say
end
this
then? When do
is
you leave?
You know how this is gonna end? How this is gonna end basically is if the squatters decide to squat in the politicians' homes. That's how this is gonna end. Watch if this guy basically pulled this exact same crap but in a politician's home, this law would be changed.
Sure,
Guarantee
come
it.
here, brother. I like.
And where's your lease?
She's fighting. Is either she pays me my money that I put into the house, pay me the money, and I'll leave, or send me to court and we deal with the judge in court. It's that simple.
It's not that simple. It's a long process. Evictions can take close to 2 years to complete.
That is 100% true. The reporter was saying there when he's saying that it can take up to 2 years, he's right. So I'll tell you guys a story. Something similar that happened to my family. Story's not identical. It's pretty similar. There are a few differences. So I grew up in a rental property. Growing up as a kid, and it was a small apartment building. And if anybody has ever seen Spider-Man 2 and Spider-Man 3, you know that that apartment building that basically Peter Parker lives in, and Mr. Ditkovich, and he's you'll get your rent when you fix this damn door. The apartment building that I grew up in was very similar to that. It was I always was so fascinated by that Peter's apartment in that in Spider-Man 2 and 3 because it was very similar to the type of building that I grew up in as a kid. So my parents came to this country. They worked really hard. My grandmother was actually the one originally when she came to this country. She worked really hard. She got the house, and then what ended up happening was she the apartment building that she had. She left the apartment building for both my my father and my father's brother, my uncle. And what my father ended up doing is my father purchased it from his brother because his brother didn't want to live there. So my father basically purchased that side of the apartment building from his brother, from my uncle. My father and my uncle are in good terms. It was nothing, bad. It was just my uncle just didn't want to live there, so he wanted to sell his apartment basically to my dad. But anyways, so my dad basically had full control of the apartment building, and we had 4 units in the apartment building. We had 2 upstairs, we had 1 on the ground floor and 1 on the lower floor. And this we had 2 tenants that would live upstairs and 1 tenant that would live downstairs. There was actually a situation once. The unit that we had downstairs, the lower area, I guess it kind of counts as the basement, but it was a full unit. It was a bedroom and a living room down there. It was a kitchen. It was basically a full unit that was downstairs. And apparently in New York City there was this stupid law where you can't have a bathtub in your basement. I don't even know what that was about, but apparently one of our neighbors, someone had called up an inspector, or he came to the house when I was a kid, saw that there was a bathtub there. We had to remove the bathtub and we got fined. That was really just one of New York's stupid laws. But then there was the other one, the squatter situation that I'll tell you guys about. The squatter situation. So we had this couple that moved in, and they were like at the time they were in their 20s. This is like 2006 2007 when this happened. I was like 12 13 years old, when I was around that age. But we had this couple that moved in, and they seemed like nice people. There was no red flags. They didn't seem like criminals. Everything seemed fine. What ends up happening is after a month they didn't pay rent. Nothing. They did not pay rent. They didn't give any kind of specific reason on why they didn't pay rent. There was nothing wrong with the unit. The unit had recently been remodeled. It looked nice. It was, fresh, ready for, a new tenant to come in. And guess what? They weren't paying rent. So in this case, this situation, my family actually, they signed a lease with these people, with this couple, but they weren't paying the rent. And what ends up happening is, a month goes by, a second month goes by. My parents end up calling the police. The police said, we cannot do anything. This is, a landlord-tenant issue. You have to take it to the courts, even though there's clear proof that they aren't paying their rent. So what ends up happening is they end up living in that unit upstairs for months and months and months. And my dad was getting really pissed off. My mom, on the other hand, it was destroying her mental health. Like, that situation just hurt her. Just knowing that, these strangers were just living upstairs, living rent-free basically up in the apartment. I saw how much that took a toll on my mom when I was a kid. And that couple, I just so disliked them. So I walked past these basically criminals that were in my parents' home, when I was a kid, and it was just so frustrating. And what ended up happening is I told my mom at the time, I told her, why don't you just shut off the utilities to that unit? Cut off their electricity, cut off their water. That'll force them out. They'll leave at that point. If they can't, do anything, if they can't watch TV, they can't use electricity, they don't have lights, they don't have water, they're gonna leave at that point. And my mom basically told me, I can't do that. That's New York City law. You can't shut that down on tenants. But But literally, they weren't paying for months and months and months. But that was apparently what New York City law was like. And they sat there for months and months and months and months. And then finally, after so many months, we got a court date. And do you know what ended up happening? The day before the court date, they moved out. And we never saw them again. And they probably went to some other landlord and probably scammed them and pulled the exact same thing. They probably lived rent-free in some other place. That was ridiculous. And guess what? Did the New York City courts compensate my parents for that case being delayed for months and months and months? No, they didn't. So my parents had lost, close to a year, basically, worth of rent. So these criminals that are basically living for free upstairs. So there needs to be better laws that if these people aren't paying rent, or if they're, trespassing, and, they're, like in this case, this guy didn't even have a lease, just trespassing, deciding to take a home over, you gotta throw these people out. These people gotta go. It's as simple as that. Just throw them out, kick them out, that's it. And I'll say this, is the guy who actually lived next door to that, scamming couple, the couple who were, like, scamming, the squatters that were living upstairs in my parents' apartment building. The guy that actually lived next door to them, he was actually, a big biker guy. And this guy, like, you would think that this guy was trouble when you see this guy, because, like, this guy was, like, big, muscly, tattoos all over, he had, like, 2 Harley-Davidson bikes. But the thing about the guy is the guy was actually a gentle giant. He was big, big, muscular. He had tattoos. He wore biker gear, but he was actually a really nice guy, a really chill guy. He never caused any problems. He always paid rent on time. He was not a criminal. He was not a gangster. He was just a guy who just liked riding motorcycles for fun. That's just basically what it was. He actually was a manager of a Target, but that was it. He was a nice guy, never caused any problems. But that's basically the point. Is that don't judge a book by its cover, because the big biker guy, you think that guy is going to be the guy that's going to cause a bunch of troubles. The guy with tattoos all over himself. But then you have, like, a couple that's in their 20s, looks like recent college graduates, looks like nice people, looks like they're going to be, a great, tenants. They were actually the scammers. So that's why, that story, never forget that. That taught me a very important lesson as a kid is, don't judge a book by its cover. Because, there are people out there who, seem like trouble, like the biker guy, but in reality, they're actually nice people. But then there's people out there that might seem like they're nice people, like, young couple in their 20s, able to smooth talk my parents. But, on the other hand, they were just, scumbags. They were just criminals. So I don't think there's no such thing as squatters' rights. You know what squatters' rights to me is? Squatters' rights is basically criminals' rights. The right to trespass. There was this situation here recently.
It becomes a nightmare.
This was another situation that happened. This was like a month or 2 months before this.
A dream home turned into a nightmare. You heard him. For this family from
what they thought was their...
I don't want to, watch through the whole video here, but basically this couple had bought a $2 million home to retire, and this a criminal took over their house again.
They cannot come here early when I'm not here.
They have keys. They're the owner. This is what happened when the Landis tried to enter with an insurance inspector. They say Flores called the cops on them, even though they say they gave him 10-day notice.
He wasn't a renter.
Never.
You didn't sign documents that said, we have a tenant.
Correct.
Court documents detail in Flores' own words why he's there. A signed statement says he was hired by the former homeowner as his caretaker, was paid $3,000 a week, and his employment ended in January of last year when the man died. He claims he has a license to stay in the house from the previous owner.
What a lot of people don't...
No, you don't. Even if this story is true, even if the previous owner had sold the house, the new owner owns the house. You don't have a right to stay there, even if the previous owner granted you that right. It's oh my God. It's just, like I said, these people are scammers. That's what I'll say about them. These people are scammers. These people are criminals. That's pretty much that. Sorry for my rant there, guys, but this is just something that, I went through when I was a kid. I seen this firsthand, this crap happening. These scammers, these scumbags, these criminals, and this just irritates me, just pisses me off, because it's just I just remember my mom, and I remember the crap that she dealt with. It's just remember how much that took such a toll on her mental health, and I just felt so bad about that. And it took such a bad toll on my mom and dad's mental health that, you know what they ended up doing? They ended up selling that apartment building, and they ended up moving to a Long Island. So when I was about 13 years old at that point, after that bad situation, they just ended up selling the apartment building because they didn't want to deal with that stuff like that anymore. They didn't want to be landlords. They didn't want to deal with that after having such a terrible experience. And I decided to do it because I think that, being a landlord is a good investment, and I think, it's a job that anybody can literally learn how to do, and it's not, I wouldn't say that it's easy, but it's not complicated, to learn how to do. That's just what I'll say about it. So it's a, great way to build wealth, and I do think, being a landlord is worth it. But the problem is New York. That's basically the problem. I think being a landlord is worth it, just not in places like New York. That's why I've always told my viewers, is a lot of you guys, you always ask me on streams, you ask me, how is New York professional? It's a great place to, buy a home, and it's a great place to move to. And what I tell you, and I'm going to tell you guys again this, New York is a great place to visit. It's not necessarily a great place to move to, because you're going to pay, insanely high rents, property taxes are through the roof, and on top of that is, you possibly could deal with situations just like this. So that's basically my advice to people like that. It's a great city to visit. There's wonderful parts in New York, but don't be a homeowner in New York. That's what I'll say about that. So thank you guys for watching. If you guys enjoyed this video, if you enjoyed my rant, do drop a like, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care, everyone. Have a wonderful day, guys.